Right, okay, so it's been a week now since I last done an upload to my channel. The last video I'd done was about, oh yeah, that was it. It was, I think I'm losing my mind. It was about the seats, the captain seats I've got, and my full width rock and roll bed. Now, what I wanted to do was try and do like a weekly upload just to give everybody who's watching my channel something to look forward to. It's not always going to be, you know, about the van. I might try and switch it up a bit with a bit of travelling, or I don't know. I need to. I'll do something, but I want to try and keep it interesting and informative as well, if that's the correct word to use, because there's no point in watching something unless you're going to get something out of it. I always find. So I won't sit there and watch a video on YouTube if it doesn't bring any value to me. So I always want to try and add a little bit of value as well. So today I thought I would do a walkthrough on the electrical setup of my T5 transporter. Now, I've done all the electrics myself on here. Yeah, it was pretty straightforward for me. I've got an electrical background, not electrician, but I've got an electrical background with other things. And it just made it a little bit easier for someone like myself, as opposed to somebody who's never done it before. So I'm going to do a little walkthrough and explain everything as I go. So the first thing I'm going to show you is the lighting setup in my van. Now, I think I'll do this from the outside going in, just to make it a little bit more exciting. Right, such a nice day again down there. So I've got dual sliding doors, and what I thought was, when I'm opening the driver's side door, is that I've got a switch just by the door which I can turn the lights on myself, instead of them coming on automatically, because I won't always want them on. And then it's got a dimmer switch on it as well, so you can dim the lights and brighten them as you please. Just going to shut the door, you probably can't hear anything. Yeah, so I put 4 spotlights in. So you've got 2, so if I take you to the front of the van, you've got 2 just above my head here, and then 2 right at the back. I thought that's sufficient. Because I've got a short wheelbase, it's not really a huge space to light up, and if you have more than 4, I think it's just going to be too bright. And at night time, if I'm sleeping in the van or I'm staying in the van, I want to be able to just chill out and dim them down nicely, instead of having like a real bright light. And the colour of these, I think they're 3,000 or 4,000 K, so they're the yellow ones, they're not the white. I didn't want the bright white, I just went for yellow. So yeah, that's my lighting setup. You can only turn it on and off from the switch. They don't come on automatically. I didn't want them to. And I removed the old Volkswagen push lights. I got rid of them. I didn't like the look of them. I thought it makes the ceiling look a bit tacky. So I decided not to keep them. And then yeah, that's that. So I'm going to move on to the next bit now. Before I move on any further though, just wanted to do a little video of that view right behind me. It is incredible. You can see that the waves are crashing down nicely, the sun's out. How romantic when you're doing a video on your own. Right, so next thing, what can I show you guys? Okay, so I've got a leisure battery which is direct. My phone just cut out then. So I've got a leisure battery which is directly below my driver's seat, which I put in with a dead fly on it. And you can see here. Do you know what? This is terrible editing. I'm gonna have to stop this bit, and then I'm gonna have to turn the camera around. So yeah, leisure battery is underneath here. It's on a proper. It's actually one made for the T5s. It's a battery tray and clamp. Now it's got like little holes in it, so when you take your seat out, you can screw it directly into the console of the base of the seat. So the battery, look, is absolutely solid. It's clamped in, it ain't going anywhere. I've seen some people use cable ties and God knows what else, but it's a battery at the end of the day. If that comes out, or if that shorts out, you can have a fire, you can have any sort of problems, especially if you have an accident. Like, you don't want that flying out underneath your seat. So make sure when you do your conversion, people, you buy a proper clamp. Yeah. Can't stress it anymore. Right, that's that. Put that back on. And the way my battery is charged is by the split charge voltage sensitive relay which is connected to the main battery of the van. So in all seriousness, what that does is when you start your engine on your van and the voltage jumps up to 14.5 volts, say, to charge the van battery, the voltage sensitive relay then kicks in and starts charging the leisure battery. So basically both batteries will be charging by the alternator of your van. So it's a very straightforward setup. You connect it you connect it from your main battery to your leisure battery, and then when the van isn't running, it will stop charging. When you start your engine and start driving, the battery starts charging again. There's plenty more info on that online. I don't need to bore you to death on it, how it works. So that is what I've got in my van. So from there, from the leisure battery to the split charge, that's that part. So that's how I'm getting my power. And then we've got a mains hookup point. Now I'm going to show you the main point in the van, where it is. And actually I've got a little bit more interesting information on that because I've changed the location. It was in one location, now it's gone to another, so yeah. Okay, so I did have the mains hookup point on this panel here. I had it on a hinge, which was like custom made for the van. I sort of had to get a hinge and cut the panel out and all that. Now, that was all good at the time, but then what happened was the hinge started rusting and the panel weren't sitting flush. So anyone that's thinking about doing a concealed hookup, don't waste your time. I have done another video on me using that hookup previously, so you'll see it on there. But what I decided to do was put a new panel on the back, remove it from there, and then put it under the bonnet now. So I'm going to show you where that is. So yeah, look, I've moved it down to here. Cable goes through the dash and through the grommet underneath the floor, and that's where I hook up at campsites. When you plug it in, you can shut the bonnet down, no problems at all. So the mains hookup point, the cable, I run it underneath the floor. It comes up, there's a little grommet up here underneath, and it goes under the rubber mat into a nice little channel of the floor, and back underneath the passenger seat. So if I take this console board out of the way, which I've neatly done there, and goes back to my breaker and consumer unit just here. Got my two switches. One's for the plug sockets in the van. One's for the mains battery charger for the leisure battery, which you can see is plugged in here. So I've got a little plug socket under here as well. And what I do, if I keep that switched on, that basically charges my leisure battery when I'm on a campsite hooked up. So I'll show you let me show you the mains charge now actually. So that's back underneath here. Oh, there you go, I've got some silver tape here. So you can see here I've got my mains battery charger. It's currently upside down because it's not fixed in 100% just yet. And yeah, it's got a load of settings. So when it's on, I've got an AGM battery, so it goes to AGM, and then what you can do, you can select the charge rate, whether you want 2 amp, 4 amp, or 8 amp. Obviously, if you want to charge it fast, put it on 8, but I normally just do a trickle charge at 2 amp. Keeps it topped up, doesn't fry the battery. Right, so yeah, that's that. And then the sockets that this also is running is for these two. I've got 2 plug sockets. Shut that door because it's running windy out there, noisy. So I'll put 2 plug sockets in. I've got one here and one here. Now they only work when I'm on a campsite, like I say, hooked up. They'll never work otherwise. I don't want them to work otherwise because I'm never really going to need them to work when I'm not at a campsite. Yeah, hope that makes sense. So yeah, that is my main setup. Hook up underneath the bonnet of the van. Don't put it on a concealed hinge at the back like I done. Just learn from my mistake. Some people do it and put stainless steel hinges on. Don't waste your time. So yeah, just recap. Mains hook up underneath my bonnet. That goes back to my consumer unit underneath the passenger seat. That then gives me power when I'm hooked up at a campsite on either side of my van, like so. So I can plug a kettle in, or I can plug in a electric heater, which is also really handy. Although I have got a diesel heater in the van, I don't really need to use electric heater, but it's nice to know I can use somebody else's electric when I need to, as opposed to, you know, me having to be completely self-sufficient all the time. And then, yeah, it also charges my leisure battery. So that's that is pretty much all I use it for. And I rarely go to campsites, so these things rarely happen. Right, so moving on to the next bit now. I've got a 1000 watt 230 volt inverter fitted underneath my passenger seat. Now, the reason I put that in is so I can charge my laptop anytime I want to. And also I can charge mobile phones if I really want to, although I've got more USB sockets in here than I can shake a stick at. But it's purely for laptops or the occasional kettle boil, which I do. I've got a 1000 watt kettle, which apparently you shouldn't really do it. I know it's not good because it's going to kill your battery. But I've got a little travel kettle, which I also plug in to the inverter, only when my engine's running, so it keeps it all topped up. And it only takes about 2 minutes to boil the kettle. So really, it's very handy. Like if I'm out and about and I want a nice coffee, I'll just boil my kettle, no problem. I have heard stories of people having to wait like 10 minutes for their kettle to boil. I don't know why that is. They may not have a very good inverter. I'm not so sure. But I'm not advising or recommending anyone else to do the same as me, because if my alternator goes pop, or if my leisure battery drains flat within a few more weeks, then that's my own doing. But I'm one of those people that likes to take a risk in life, so I've taken the risk, and so far so good. Like there's been no problems. I get a nice hot coffee, yeah, whenever, and also if you want like some super noodles boiled up, you can do that. So yeah, that's what I use my inverter for. Now the way it works, if you don't know, is it wires into your leisure battery and converts the 12 volt to 230 volt. I've got a modified sim wave. There's two types. There's a pure sim wave, which is meant to be really smooth, and it pretty much replicates the voltage of a house. Now, like the smoothness of it, whereas the modified one is a bit more lumpy. It's not as good. So they reckon that if you use a modified sim wave, not to really use it for voltage sensitive devices, as it could not work properly. But there's more info on that online. So if you want to look at inverters, go on YouTube, just type in the difference between modified sim wave and pure sim wave. There's plenty of people out there who can give you a better explanation than I can. But I really recommend anyone who's going to do electrics in their van, put in a inverter, because they are handy. Like there was a time before I had my double rock and roll bed, I used to use a blow up bed. So I used to plug the pump into the inverter and charge the bed up, no problem at all. And also if you wanted to inflate your tyres, you could also use it for that. So yeah, I'm going to show you the front of that now, to give you some sort of idea. Well, that didn't sound great. Right, so under here you can see I've got two plug sockets, got USB, and then here's the on button. Turn that on, it's got a fault light and a power light. There you go, she is up and ready to go, should I need to. So yeah, that's the inverter. Let me find you something else to look at. So the next thing is my little switch panel, as you can see down here. Now, you probably saw, well you did see, not probably, you saw all these cables. You can see I've coiled them up nice and neat. It's only so I can move this out the way should I need to get behind here to do anything with these bits. So yeah, what this does is, this switch panel is, it controls anything you wire into it. So for example, on here, if we look at this switch here, if I press that, that is the voltage meter on here. So that tells me how many volts my leisure battery is currently running at, and it's 12.6. So that's not in a charging state at the minute. If I was to start the engine now, that would jump up to 14.5. Also, when I turn this little switch on, I get a cigarette lighter power as well. So if I wanted to plug anything into that, I can do. And of course, both of these USBs come on as well when this switch is on. So if you want to plug your phones in when you're in the back or whatever, you can do. So that's that. Let's turn that off. And then this was the most handy thing I decided to do. Now, I wired up my stereo so that when I'm in the back of the van, I can actually have my have my music playing. So all I do is, it's a two-way switch. So if I push it to the bottom, you'll see my CD player is now coming on, and that's running off of the leisure battery now. So when this is working, hopefully there's going to be no copyright music. But yeah, so like now, I've got my speakers in the back, I've got music running off of my leisure battery, so it doesn't drain the main battery in the van. Let me turn that off. That was the most handy switch I got. Now, these other 4 switches basically are spares. So if, say, I decide to put a fridge in, I can literally turn the fridge on and off from here. Or I know some of these pods, these camper pods that people fit, they have like a sink in them, and you can turn the switch, the tap on and off. There's basically like a pump or something like that. And then you could have like your lights or whatever. They're only spares at the minute because I haven't decided if I'm going to have a pod or a fridge. I'm probably going to put a fridge in at a later date. All the wiring for that is underneath the front of the driver's seat. And it all goes back to the little fuse box under there. The little fuse box there basically uses the same fuses you see in your car or van, the standard ones, the little blade ones. That's what will give you your 12 volt. So yeah, that's that. Oh yeah, one thing I forgot to mention was you'll see a lot of camper van conversions where they put the switch panel like on the kitchen or on the wall. Now, obviously, because mine's on the back of the seat console board, you're probably thinking why. But the reason why I've done that was because it makes the wiring so much more accessible for the way my van's set up. Plus, the switchboard is completely out of the way. And the reason why it is on the passenger side is because if I decide to put a pod in, I'm going to put it behind the driver's seat. So obviously that's not going to get in the way, and it's easily accessible. Now, one last thing is that I wanted to say is, if you're doing your own van conversion, or if you're thinking about doing your own van conversion, and you're looking to do the electrics yourself, is if you haven't got any electrical experience or knowledge, do not attempt it yourself. Get a professional to do it. Electricity is dangerous and it can kill, so just make sure you get a professional to do it, especially the mains 230 volt stuff, because you could be at a campsite and if you've wired something wrong, your van could be completely live and you could have an electric shock. So just get a professional to do it. Now, if you have got electrical knowledge and experience, but you're not familiar with the van side of things, there is a good company out there called Rayne Automotive. I use them for mine. They provide you with a bespoke wiring kit for your van and a diagram which talks you through all the step-by-step parts and bits you need to know. So they're really good to contact should you need to. The other thing I was going to say is, if you haven't already, oh, that went a bit weird. If you haven't already, subscribe to my channel, because I'll be doing more videos like this coming up. And yeah, please leave a like on the video if you do like it. If you don't like it, dislike it, whatever suits you. And yeah, any questions, just drop them in the box below, and I'll be more than happy to get back to you as soon as I can. Cheers.